Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Swish City, where we're going over our power rankings, ranking each team 30 to 1, going over their additions, their subtractions, who they kept, players I like on the team, players that I don't think necessarily fit, and overall my record prediction for each team. Like I said, we've gone through an abundance of these teams on the channel, so if you're just tuning in and you want to catch up on your team, figure out where they are, go check it out. But in today's episode, we're going to be breaking down a team in the West that has some weird roster construction, but I think if they make the right moves, could be a deadly team in the Western Conference. And that team is the New Orleans Pelicans. So we're going to be diving in, looking at all of their moves, players I like on their team, and ultimately my record prediction. So let's get into it. Like I said in the introduction, let's look at the Pelicans' moves. And the Pelicans had a busy off season after a little bit of a disappointing season last year, dealing with some injuries. The Pelicans realized that they needed to capitalize in this Western Conference to bolster and strengthen their lineup, which was already filled with young depth already. The Pelicans went out and did that. But first, let's look at who they brought back. They went out and brought back Jose Alvarado, their only player they re signed on a 2 year extension. Jose Alvarado has been a fantastic, gritty backup point guard for this team and a solid playmaker, and I think fits in with this culture well. They also made four additions to this team, bringing in Jamal Cain, who agreed to a deal, signing Javonte Green, who was a late season pickup by the Bulls, signing Daniel Tice away from the Los Angeles Clippers, and also trading for DeJounte Murray from the Atlanta Hawks, where they gave up most of their capital. They gave up Dyson Daniels, they traded EJ Liddell, they traded Larry Nance Jr., and they traded Cody Zeller. Now, they also lost two players in free agency as well, as Najee Marshall departed in free agency to go to the Dallas Mavericks, and Jonas Valanciunas left to go to the Wizards. The writing was basically on the wall for Jonas Valanciunas to be pushed out, and the Pelicans were expected to pursue a center in this off season. But unfortunately for the Pelicans, they were unable to do so. If we look at this uh, lineup courtesy of Spot Track, we can obviously see that they're, heavily favored by Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and DeJounte Murray, their four main players, but Herb Jones being another one in that five. And as you can see, there's no true center in that position. Trey Murphy also being their sixth best player and also could be a starter on this team. It is definitely a little alarming for this Pelican squad getting into the season. The Pelicans do have some nice young talent, though. They did draft center Yves Missy, who they do believe in, and also have Daniel Tice. Now, those players could, possibly earn themselves to be that starting center by the start of the year. But ultimately, if the Pelicans want to compete and want to be a top tier team, I think they're going to need a better center in that aspect. So I would expect the Pelicans to keep their eyes on the trade market. Then when we look down, keep going down to this team, you can obviously see Jamal Cain was one of their two-way guys that they brought in, but this team is a young mix of guys that are young with untapped potential and some young guys that are in the wing department as well. So now that we've kind of looked at the Pelicans roster, kind of looked at that, let's dive into some players that I like and some players that I think don't necessarily fit in with this team. All right, and first off, we're going to be starting talking about Jordan Hawkins. Jordan Hawkins was their lottery pick the last season, and he did not get that much run within this Pelicans team this year, as they were kind of filled at that guard position, having, even Brendan Ingram playing the two at some points. And for Hawkins, it was a little bit of a growing year for him, but I think he's going to make a major impact for this team. When he came out of UConn, he was viewed as one of the best scorers and shooters in this draft class, and we've already seen that in his time with the preseason summer league, him in the G League, and getting him some reps with the Pelicans as well, that he can be a scorer at that level in the NBA. I think he's going to really insert himself into this Pelicans rotation this season, playing that backup two guard alongside Jose Alvarado, and I can't wait to see what he can truly show for this Pelicans team as a scorer for this bench unit. I really think that he can even turn himself into a starter for this team in the future, and that would ultimately leave the Pelicans with some difficult decisions, but would leave the Pelicans with a stacked roster and having enough capital to trade to be able to continue their growth and to continue their dominance. So for the Pelicans, I think they have absolutely struck in gold with Hawkins, and I think that this season he's going to make himself a stable name in the NBA, where some casual fans, people that don't watch the Pelicans or don't know much about anything besides starters, will find out who Jordan Hawkins is this year. And another player being added to this team that I really, really like is DeJounte Murray. And DeJounte Murray with Trae Young, I discussed in my Atlanta Hawks video, so if you missed that, go check that one out. But we talked about the fit And even though it looked good on paper, it necessarily didn't really work. And due to the fact that both of them need the ball in their hands. And I specifically said how I think Dyson Daniels is basically what they needed next to Trae Young, and they realized that. And I think he's going to be a way better fit alongside of him. But DeJounte, I think, works perfectly in New Orleans, and this is the perfect spot that I wanted him to see going to. I've been mocking trades to my friends and talking about doing this flip for years now. I honestly wanted to see Brandon Ingram traded to Atlanta, DeJounte traded to New Orleans, and Brandon Ingram could have then been flipped to a third team or been utilized in Atlanta, whatever they wanted to do. But as long as DeJounte got to play with Zion and got to have that pick and roll with the lob threat ability, it would be insane. And I'm telling you guys, if Zion is healthy, this duo is going to turn heads. DeJounte Murray with the ball in his hands, being that primary ball handler, being that playmaker for this Pelicans team, is going to be amazing. He's going to average at least 6 to 7 assists per game while also being able to average at least 20 points. And I truly think his mid-range scoring is going to be fantastic. Like I said, his pick and roll with Zion is going to be great. He's going to find those wings in Trey Murphy, in Brandon Ingram, in Herbert Jones to get their points as well. He's also a pretty solid defender as well. I know last year in Atlanta, he didn't look like the best defender. Maybe his defense that he was praised upon in San Antonio, was discredited a little bit. But I think in this New Orleans offense, with him being that primary ball handler and playing alongside CJ McCollum as well, who was playing those point guard duties last season, I think he'll translate better playing alongside of him being a catch and shoot player. And I think DeJounte Murray is going to be able to make CJ McCollum look like a better player as well. So for this Pelicans team, like the last couple videos, there's no one that I really dislike. There's no one I really not hate. I just think that the Pelicans obviously have a glaring issue that we've already discussed, which is no center. They have no center at that position, and they desperately need a center to be playing that position. So how will they go out there? How will they find someone to be able to take that role, be able to fulfill that role? Well, that's where this comes in here. And this is the player that I think the Pelicans need to look to be trading, and a lot of fans probably agree as well, and that's Brandon Ingram. Now, Brandon Ingram, I've been high on. I have his jersey, T-shirt, legit that same color, that red one, and I really like Brandon Ingram. I think he could be a fantastic third star on a championship contending team at this rate, continue to grow, maybe even be a second star. But at this point, that's where I think his ceiling is, and I think he's a fantastic offensive player. But with the injuries that he's dealt with this seasons, and with the Pelicans having again a logjam in the wing position with Trey Murphy, Herbert Jones, and Brandon Ingram all being able to start, but not all of them being able to in a lineup with Zion Williamson, it is very, very difficult for this Pelicans team to run its best offense. And with Brandon Ingram wanting an extension of $40 million, and the Pelicans not wanting to give him that because they have so much young talent, I feel like the writing on the wall for Brandon Ingram in New Orleans is coming sooner than later. And I think that if we don't see a trade happen in the first half of this season, if the Pelicans definitely have a disappointing year, we'll see a move made with Ingram in the off season. Now, ultimately, I do think there'll be a trade happening in the midseason involving Ingram. I think that the Pelicans are going to come out not to a hop start, honestly, and I think that they're going to have some weird things. We've already heard the news of Herb Jones starting at center for this team to running their best five. And even though I think that is, the smart decision for this team, it's going to lead to some weird lineups. And I think that's what's going to clearly show with this Pelicans team. And then I think the Pelicans are going to truly realize we have to make a move. We have to do this trade. And there's going to be a lot of other teams as well in the NBA who may be believing in some of their players or believing in their core, but then realizing 15 to 20 games into the season, yeah, this is not going to work. And I think Brandon Ingram could be one of those players that all those teams at the deadline could view as a trade piece to kind of take them over the top, to kind of help them in their playoff pursuit race. And I think he could be a name to monitor. I know over the offseason the Magic were a team to monitor. I know personally I would like him to go to the Bucks for the Bucks to have a bigger shot of winning an NBA championship. I think he could fill himself in perfectly as a third scorer there. Ultimately, it's whatever the Pelicans feel is the right deal and whatever they can get and whatever they feel comfortable getting doing. I don't think they'll trade Trey Murphy. I don't think they trade Herb Jones. I think they believe in those guys more. They'd rather have that young unit together and move off of a player in Brandon Ingram. But now that we discussed all of that, let's get to the record prediction. As you all know, the record prediction is going to be wonky. It is already messed up, but 51 and 31, coming in at sixth place. I have the Pelicans here in the Western Conference. I do have them out performing the Grizzlies. It was really close, but honestly, like I said in the last video, the Grizzlies have already dealt with some injuries to this season already, and that kind of scares me a little bit with this Grizzlies team. I think that those injuries are going to linger into the season for this squad, and I think the Pelicans, even though they have some injuries as well, and they have a little bit of a weird, wacky lineup, I think they'll eventually get a true center into this team by the trade deadline. And then once that happens, we'll see a little bit of a turnaround, kind of similar to where we saw the Mavericks really get hot in the second half of the season. I think that's what the Pelicans are going to do as long as they stay healthy. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Where would you guys rank the New Orleans Pelicans? Do you think I ranked them too high? Did you think I ranked them too low? Drop your thoughts down below in the comment section. Once again, you guys have been absolutely fantastic in showing your support, liking the video, hitting the subscribe button if you do enjoy the content. And the content will not stop as the season continues. So as we get hyped up for the season, these power ranking videos are coming out. But once the season's out, we will not stop. We'll have more updates, more videos. Let me know what you guys want to see down below in the comment section. Once again, I'm Bruce Velez. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, everyone.